Hey guys, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to be doing a oil change on this 2009 Toyota Tacoma, specifically with a 2.7 liter engine. I'm going to show you guys what you'll need to do this job. You're going to need a drain pan, funnel, oil filter, gasket for the drain plug, oil filter wrench, some kind of breaker bar or long ratchet like this. If you want, you can use a torque wrench, and then about 4.5, or no, I think the manual said 4.9 to 5.5 quarts of 0W20 oil. And then obviously you're going to want to get your truck in there. That's kind of important. You can use ramps or jacks, however you guys want to do it. But I'm going to climb underneath the truck and we'll go from there. So once you get underneath the truck, this is the angle from the front. So you see this big cross member right here? It's going to be right behind that. See how it's kind of a rounded pan right here? That's your oil pan. Do not drain the more rectangular shaped pan back there. That is your transmission. You do not want to drain that or you'll be in trouble. So this is going to be a 14 millimeter. I'm going to get that cracked open and I'll bring you guys back. Alright, got that draining out. You might want to use a little bit bigger of a pan than I did. From when I do these oil changes in the past, it gets pretty much full to the top, so be kind of prepared for that. These engines do hold quite a bit of oil. I think this specific one, I think it takes around 5 quarts, a little over. It's usually what I put in, but I recommend doing this when the engine's, warm. It doesn't have to be like hot, but at least you want to get it warm so it drains faster and gets most of the junk out of it. You see how that old gasket's still stuck on the oil pan? I'm gonna have to scrape that off and put the new one on. There's the old drain plug right there. I'm gonna reuse that. You don't have to replace the plugs every time, but the gaskets I highly recommend replacing. I'll leave the part number for that in the description. Same with the oil filter. So I'm going to let that finish draining out all the way. I'm going to put a new gasket on, and the torque spec I found online was 28 foot-pounds. You guys can research that yourself or find a manual somewhere, but that's what I'm going with here. Alright, I got the new drain plug in, or I mean the new gasket on. Drain plug is back in. You're going to want to clean all this old residual oil off of here, like really good. So that way, once you put the new oil in, you can start it up, let it run, and then when you come back underneath it, check for leaks. You'll know that it's not leaking. So next I will move on to the oil filter. See what I mean about the pan? You're probably going to want a bigger pan than this, because it gets kind of hard to move around when it's full like that, and I always end up spilling it, so just be careful. So now for the oil filter. If you're looking at the engine like this from underneath, you're going to want to go over here. There it is, right there. So that would be on the passenger side of the truck. There's no real way to kind of explain that except reach your hand up in there, grab it, loosen it counterclockwise. If you can't do it by hand, use a oil filter wrench like this. Crack it loose and you should be able to spin it off by hand. Alright, the old oil filter's off. You're going to want to check your old filter. See if I can get my camera to focus here. You see how it's got that gasket on it still? You want to make sure that it stays with the oil filter and it's not stuck up there on the engine. You guys see that maybe? Yeah, where that circle is the middle of the screen. That's where oil filter goes. You want to make sure your gasket's not stuck up there. If it is, just pull it off. This is, what is this, a Denso filter? Come on, focus. That is the filter that was on it. 150 2010, I believe. I'm going to be replacing it with a different brand, which will be linked in the description. Just going to let that drain out and toss it in the trash. Another thing, when you put your new oil filter on, it'll come with instructions. Oh, that's upside down, isn't it? So basically, you're going to want to thread it all the way onto the engine until it stops, and then go another 3/4 to 1 full turn. We have torque specs on there, but how in the world are you going to measure that? Just 3/4 to 1 turn after it stops spinning, and you're good to go. Oh, one other thing to mention. When you take your oil filter off, it's probably going to drip and make a huge mess. Clean that off the best you can. That way when you go back to check for leaks later, you're not going to be confused. One other thing I wanted to mention, when you go to put the new filter on, take some engine oil and lubricate that seal. Alright, now that I got the oil filter hand drain plug tightened, time to come up top, find your oil cap, which is right here. Man, that one's on tight. Don't know what happened there, but I'm going to have to grab a pair of pliers to loosen that. Put that off to the side. This is the oil I'm going to be using. I think you can use a 0W20 or a 5W20, but make sure it's full synthetic. It'll last longer. So I'm going to start by pouring this whole 5 quarts in, then I'm going to check the dipstick. So I got the oil filled up, checked it on the dipstick, make sure it was good. Now you're going to want to start it, let it run for a minute, go underneath and check for leaks by the oil filter and the drain plug. And then after it runs for about a minute, you want to shut it off and check the oil level again. It will go down since it's got to fill the oil filter again. I'm going to pull the dipstick out, wipe it clean, put it back in. Let's check it. I don't know how well it's going to show up on the camera, but it's kind of towards the lower part of the safe zone, which the safe zone is in between those 2 dots. I'm going to check that again. Sometimes you got to let them sit for 15 minutes or so. Let all the oil settle. Focus. Yeah, well, maybe about halfway up the dipstick, the safe zone. I'm gonna let it sit and check it in a little bit. So I got the engine, it's been sitting for a while, the oil's been settling. I checked it, and I'm gonna put probably about half of this in, half a quart. See how that goes. Oops. Making a little bit of a mess here. Alright, I'm going to check it again and see what I get. So about after 5 1/4 quarts of oil, that's what it looks like. Right at the full mark, just about. I'm going to leave it like that for now and call it good. Another thing I want to do real quick, I want to reset the maintenance light. tells you when to change your oil. So I believe the way to do this is you hold down the trip button right here and then you turn the key on. I'm gonna try that, see what happens. Got the camera set up here. I don't know if it's gonna work. Alright, I think I got it this time, so I'm gonna hold down the trip button, turn the key. See how those lights are flashing?
Waiting for pairing. Pair.
Oh, there it goes. When it does that, then your maintenance light should be off. Right underneath the check engine light. That's where the maintenance light would come on and start flashing at you. Yeah, see where it says maintenance required? That would normally stay on once it's time for your oil change to be done, which is about every 5,000 miles or so. But, yep, so we're sitting at about 350,000. Alright, I fixed it. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I want to apologize if the quality of this video probably isn't that good. But anyway, that's going to be it for today. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.